Get your cups out, son. You gotta so you fill up on what the word has to say. It's time to eat. The table is spread, and the feast of Yahuah is going on.
All right. Shalom, shalom. Can I be heard out there on the interwebs?
And
All right, cool. All right. Today's lesson is titled If, and it is a love story. All right, before we get started, you know I love the rules. So raise your hand, ask a question, wait to be called on before you answer, because there are hands in the room as well as online. Please keep your question or comment on track with today's lesson. You will have 60 seconds to answer the question or make your statement. If you go past 60 seconds, your mic will be muted for you. It is not personal. It is just to give the teacher enough time to finish the lesson. The lessons are recorded and must be kept within a certain amount of time. The lesson is mixed with discussion to help build one another up. Please do not abuse the time. All right, and this next piece that Moreh Miyka'al instituted last month. All right, so want to take this time to explain that this lesson and the lessons thereafter are not based on any one individual, whether in this assembly, locally, or abroad. The lessons were not developed by me alone. The Father has something to do with it, if not everything to do with it, right? So the lessons hit certain points that you feel or believe have something to do with you, then all praise to the Father. Please take that knowledge and apply it to the solutions that you need in your life. Do not take anything personal to the point where you miss the message that is being given to help you solidify your salvation. All right, good. All right, so I have a question for Sephora. So turn the microphone on with the orange covering, please. I don't do trick questions. I promise. It is the easiest question you will ever be asked in your life. Sephora, do you love your father? Into the microphone. They can't hear you online.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Why do you love him? Good. Good answer. No, honestly, it's a good answer. She shrugged her shoulders, right? If you have a good relationship with someone that you love and you ask them why you love them, it might be hard to put into words, right? All right, Micah, question for you. So turn around, son, pick up the microphone with the orange cover. I got it. All right. This question is a little bit harder. Is your father a good father? It wasn't that hard, son.
yes,
Thank you. All right, here's the hard part. Why is he a good father?
because he does all the things he's required to do as a father and more.
And more. Oh, okay, I like that part. You get to ride in the front seat on the way home. All right, perfect. All right. All right, so what I wanted to point out was love in and of itself, you really can't say why you love somebody, right? But whether somebody treats you well or not, you can quantify that, right? And that's what he's able to do. And he added a little more. So good for that. All right. So we talked about loving your father, right? So this is a question for everybody. Unconditional love. Do you believe in unconditional love? It don't count if it's not in the microphone. I saw you shaking your head back there. Turn the microphone on. Yes, you. No. I heard her answer. She was mumbling. I ain't like her answer though. So I'm act like I didn't hear it.
Okay. Unconditional love. What form of love? Okay, because love is, you have different forms of love. There's some loves that are conditional based on how that person treats you, or then there are loves, let's say Do you just love that person because they exist, they're a human being? Okay.
So was that a I believe in it or an I don't believe it? Or you said it could be either one?
Okay. That question is a little bit difficult, but yes, I believe there's, I don't believe in completely unconditional.
You don't believe in complete unconditional love. Okay, fair enough. Now, Mana, what you got?
Shalom, Ken. I do believe in unconditional love.
Hello, y'all. Anybody else? You can say what you got. I'm coming right to you.
Yeah, I do believe that there is a degree of unconditional love that people do show.
Sharad, what you got?
Yeah, I believe in unconditional love because Yahuah loved me unconditional.
Okay. Kelly, what you got?
Yes and no. So if when somebody gives birth to a child, they love that child. That child did nothing to show up. But you know, if you're in a relationship and things in that relationship start to go down and conditions aren't being met, that love can fade quite fast. So it really depends on the type of relationship.
You can't say nothing now. You ain't got no microphone. You go into the principal's office. If you want to add to it, raise your hand. I'll give you the microphone. You're welcome to.
That's what I was trying to say. It's like a yeah and a no at the same time. So.
Okay. That's fair enough. We're gonna talk about it. Travis, what you got for us?
Can you hear me?
Cannon, we got you.
Okay. No, I don't believe in unconditional love because even in the sense of a parent, I believe that when a child is born, you wouldn't love that child if it wasn't your child. That is the condition. So I don't believe that there is any example of unconditional love. We all have conditions in which we love someone by, and we require that they do things for us so that we can reciprocate emotions to them to show that love. So
Okay, I can take that. Anybody else before I move on? Aria, what you got?
I just thought about the word that says, "Who loves me keeps my commandments." So that's also like condition. So if we love him, we have to keep his commandment. That's the love.
Okay, anybody else? Y'all want to join in? All right. So we talked about that. Does Yahuah love us unconditionally? If unconditional love was a thing, let's say we all agree that it's a thing. Does Yahuah love us unconditionally? We're gonna talk about it. We're gonna talk about it. Go ahead, Aki.
I would say that he does because in the midst of, or we guess he has requirements of us, but if he didn't love us unconditionally, I feel like we would have been destroyed.
You would have been destroyed?
We've been destroyed.
Okay. Go ahead, Aki. What you got?
Well, I mean, I don't think he loved us unconditionally. And because even when you look at some of the early people in scripture that Yahuah chose, there was something about them and there was a reason why they were chose. So, you know, Noah, he was set apart in his generation, you know, so was Abraham. You know, Abraham kept his law, statutes, you know what I'm saying? So it was something about them that was within them and the things that they did that made them be loved by Yahuah, I believe.
Good. When in the room, then I'm coming to you, darling.
I'm just thinking a little bit more on the condition. Sometimes it's condition of the person who's trying to love the other person, their heart, whether they can love, whether they have conditions and they can love.
Go ahead, Yolanda, what you got?
Without looking up anything, and just getting off the fence, because I was kind of like yes and no, but I believe that he loves us, but there are conditions into which he requires us to love him back. I don't know how to formulate it, but I know what I'm trying to say. He loves us, but I I don't think anybody's capable. Yeah, I'll leave that there. I yield.
Okay. Now, Monica, go ahead.
Shalom. I think he does. When we read in Ephesians chapter 3, verse 18 through 19, and it says, "I ask that you have the power to grasp love's width, length, height, and depth together with all believers. I ask that you know the love of Hamashiach Yahushua that is beyond knowledge, so that you'll be filled entirely with the fullness of Yahuah." And I yield.
Okay. Toda. All right, again, just another disclaimer. I'm not here to discuss doctrine. That's not my role. I'm just here to make us think about things and consider certain things. So whatever way, whether you agree or disagree with the lesson, don't be like, well, Miyka'al told me that such and such and such and such, and now you want to go be a street preacher. Don't do that. This is just to make us think and consider the way we interact with the Most High. All right. So some of us say it is, some of us say it isn't. For the sake of today's discussion, I'm going to say he does love us unconditionally. And I'll show you why. Let's take this brief snippet from Romans. So I'm sure that neither death nor life, nor messengers, nor rulers, nor things present, nor things to come, nor powers, nor height, nor depth, nor anything else in all creation will be able to separate us from the love of Yahuah and Yahushua, our master. So according to that list, what do you think is going to separate us? Sounds like nothing, right? Sounds pretty unconditional, right? So we're going to start with that premise for today's talk. All right. All of us deserved to be loved. Whether you were brought up in a home where love was expressed or wasn't, you have a right to be loved. We are worthy of love. Even sinners are worthy of love, because it's his love for us that allows us to be called out of our sin in the first place. But we must be mindful that it's not a love that's owed to us. Because it is unconditional, there's nothing we can do to cause him to love us. He's not going to say, because you did this, now I love you. Because you did this, now I no longer love you. The love is unconditional. It is his choice. It is a gift to us. It is not a reward. Rabbi Google, you on the line?
Yeah, I'm up here.
All right. Give me your Rabbi Google definition of the word gift. Oh, now my feelings hurt. You much faster than everybody else.
I got it. That's all good. I got it right here. I was fiddling with the mute button. All right. So it's a thing that is given willingly to someone without payment.
All right.
A noble capacity, talent, or something voluntarily transferred one person to another without compensation.
I agree. All right. So something voluntarily transferred from one to another without compensation. It's just freely given. It's not in exchange for anything. It's not in exchange for something you did. It's not in exchange for something you said. It's not in exchange for the way you made me feel at all. It's just given to you, right? It's a gift. His love to us is a gift. What word you thinking about to have him look up next? If we talked about what it is, we're probably going to talk about what it's not. I'm just trying to give him a heads up so he can start Googling. All right. It is not a reward. So, Aki, tell me what a reward is.
All right. It's something that is given in return for good or evil, done or received, or that is offered, or is given to some service or attainment.
And I agree. All right. It's given in return for good or evil that is done to someone. So you do something, you'll get the reward. You love me first, I'll love you back. Right? If you're nice to me, I'll be nice to you back. It's offered or given for some service. The one at the bottom is the one I think we're most accustomed to. And it came out earlier in the conversation about whether love is unconditional or not. A stimulus, such as food, that is administered to an organism and serves to reinforce a desired response. So I'm going to do something so that you continue to love me. That's a reward. It's not a gift. All right. So what happens when we sin? What about when we turn our back to him? Wouldn't that cause him not to love us, right? Because that's what all the examples you guys gave me in the first question, right? What happens to the love when we sin? It's open question, anybody? Go ahead, Aki. We got 2 in the room.
So when we sin, we separate ourselves from him.
But I just showed you Romans, nothing can separate us. What you got in the back?
The love will always be there. It's there when we sin. It's there when we be disobedient. It's there. We can't even hide from his love. It's always there.
Okay. All right, who's first online? Namana, what you got? What happens to that love when we sin?
The love is always there, but he disciplines those that he loves.
Yes, that's true. Who's next online? Aliyah, what you got?
Shalom, I was going to say something similar to what was already said, but the love is there to correct us and get us back on track.
Okay. Yolanda, what you got?
He still loves us, but we don't get the reward that we would have gotten if we would have stayed out of sin, is what I'm thinking.
Okay. Anybody else online? All right. So, like you all said, even when we sin, the love is still there. Give you an example. Think of a man in prison, right? This man killed 2 people in cold blood. There's no question he did it. We don't need the Innocence Project on his behalf. He's a stone cold murderer. He's in jail. He ain't never getting out. He's guilty of sin, as they say. That's what we're dealing with. But his mama comes to see him every single week. He ain't never getting out. She ain't never gonna miss a visit. So my question is this: could he ever earn that kind of love? He don't deserve that at all. Same about us when we sin, because murder is right. He committed the sin, and now he got to deal with the repercussions of that sin, right? But the love is still there. So let's see what changes based on his sin. The love is still there, and she said the word, but the relationship has changed. Love versus relationship. As a free man before he sinned, there was nothing separating them between him and his mama. Now he's separated by glass. They got to talk on the phone. He ain't hugging his mama no more, right? The closeness, he can't have that same closeness because of his sin. Same thing with us, right? You can't get close to the Most High in sin. That doesn't mean he's not there. You just can't approach him because you're in sin. You're not gonna have that same relationship in your sin. But that doesn't mean that if you cleaned yourself up, he wouldn't be there waiting open arms, right? And the love doesn't go away. Side note, he can repent and ask for forgiveness all he wants, but he ain't getting out. Again, this is a side note. Too many of us, we want to sin, we want to say I'm sorry, but we don't want to deal with the consequences. Side note, consequences ain't going away, no matter how much you say sorry. All right, so something to consider. What happens to that relationship from the inmate's point of view? oftentimes, you're serving a life sentence. You ain't never getting out. What's one thing that people will tend to do just to help them cope in relation to their outside relationships, the people on the outside? That'd be beautiful if somebody could hear what you just said online. That's my point exactly. Pick up the microphone. But you were instantaneous with it.
They separate themselves. They try to act like the outside world doesn't exist anymore. They cut everybody off. They don't want to see anybody. They don't want to talk to anybody. It helps them to do their time in peace.
They just want to do their time. It helps them out, right? Now, Mana, what you got?
Ken, they just shut down. No communication at all.
No communication at all, right? Like you said, they cut them off. I mean, I can't be bothered with the people on the outside right now. I just got to do this time. It hurts too much, right? They sever the relationship as a coping mechanism. Now I want you to stop and think for a second about how you feel towards Yahuah when you sin. I hope you feel slightly the same. You ever felt unworthy to approach him? I hope, at least for a little while. I don't want you to stay there because it'll cause you not to repent, right? But you shouldn't be able to just sin all willy-nilly and feel no kind of way about it, right? Yes.
I will say, I was going to say what you said because he give us, you know that you did something wrong and you want to make it right. So if your heart is with him, you're not going to separate yourself from him. You're going to do everything you can do to get back in good standing with him.
Right. But that's the problem right there, though. We get too hung up on this heart thing, these heart emojis and what we think love really is, right? At the bottom line is you don't want to approach him because something is telling you that you don't deserve his love anymore. And that's what you're running from. But remember, you deserve love, but what you don't deserve at that moment in your sin is relationship. When we're done today, I want us to differentiate between love and relationship. They are not the same. They work together, but they are not the same, right? But the awesome thing is that Yahuah, just like that mom visiting her son, they're just alike. He loves you enough to be willing to maintain the relationship. He's willing. He's not running away. You get yourself together, I'll be right here, right? He sees your repentant heart, and it gives you a chance to mend the relationship. Why? Because he still loves you. The love hasn't gone away. Sometimes it's hard to comprehend because our love as humans, as people, is 1,000,000% conditional. It's 1,000% conditional. And again, we're not differentiating between our relationship and our love. We will withhold, withdraw, and cancel that love in a heartbeat. Not all of us, many of us. I don't want anybody to feel picked on. There is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear. For fear has to do with punishment, and whoever fears has not been perfected in love. Let's look at verse 19. We love him because he first loved us. He had to fulfill something in order for us to love him. Is that right? Is that the right way to do, people? We got to cause our creator to earn our love. So that's usually how I go. That's usually how I go, right?
You never did that for me.
So if we make our creator earn our love, what do you think we're doing to each other? The same thing. You got to earn it. But is that the right way to do things? Probably not, right? Love is not earned. Love is not conditional. Relationships are 1,000,000% conditional, right? Because why would you want to be with somebody who's going to treat you like crap? You're not obligated, right? So we have to do what? We got to be somebody that's somebody will want to be with, right? And I'm only going to speak for myself here because y'all know I love the self-snitch. That number's too low. I can 1,000,000% love you from afar. I can love you to death and want to have nothing to do with you. Yes, ma'am.
I understand that because my father left us, but in my heart, I wanted to find him because my heart, me, I desired to hear an explanation, but my love for him kept me to find him, and eventually I did. And that conversation, he just said that he felt that we wouldn't, we didn't want him around.
Right.
But I told him I couldn't save my brothers and sisters didn't, but I wanted him around. So it is not far away. I just wanted to find.
He was that man in prison. He cut y'all off. But now you got to deal with it though. But remember that in all your relationships, especially relationships with people that you love, it's never one-sided. There's always two people involved. What you do, what you think, how you treat people is going to have an effect on that person. It's just the way he created us. It is what it is. There's nothing we can do about that. However, that doesn't mean that you have to force yourself to be with someone that's not treating you right. Okay. I love your mama. I will love your mother until the day that I leave this earth. But I have no desire for your mother. That's the difference, right? You can love them. You just got to let them live their life. Let them be. There's nothing wrong with that. The problem is we keep trying to force ourselves on people. We try to force people on us. Why won't you just love me? I'm doing this for you, so you owe me love in return. No, they don't. They absolutely do not. Because they may love you, but the relationship don't work. We keep forcing relationships in places that the Most High has separated us from. We can't do that. We can't do that. So today is a separation between the love and the benefits or blessings, AKA the relationship of that love. That's where the if comes in. The conditional part is the relationship. I don't want to read all that. Who wants to read all that for me? Matter of fact, read that. Go ahead. I picked on everybody else's kid. I'm gonna pick on.
Okay. If you walk in my statutes and observe my commandments and do them, then I will give you your rains in their season, and the land shall yield its increase, and the trees of the field shall yield their fruit. Your threshing shall last to the time of the grape harvest, and the grape harvest shall last to the time for sowing. And you shall eat your bread to the full and dwell in your land securely. I will give peace in the land, and you shall lie down, and none shall make you afraid. And I'll remove harmful beasts from the land, and the sword shall not go through your land. You shall chase your enemies, and they shall fall before you by the sword. 5 of you shall chase 100, and 100 of you shall chase 10,000, and your enemies shall fall before you by the sword.
So that sounds awesome, right? It's a wonderful thing, right? What stands out to you in that verse?
So the conditions, if basically, if they did what they were supposed to do, there's some benefits involved in it, but it never said anything about taking away love. It was just about what would happen and what would, transpire if you meet these requirements.
What you got up?
Just the very first word.
The very first word.
If.
Right. Now, how many of us have ever been in the mindset, well, we just skip straight to 6, straight to 7, straight to 8. I'm gonna chase 5 and 5,000 and blessing the city and blessing the field. We love that part, right? But we got to remember the if. The blessings, the relationship is 1,000% conditional, right? Let's look at this one. I'll read this one. John 15:12. This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. Greater love has no one than this, that someone lay down his life for his friends. You are my friends if you do what I command you. No longer do I call you servants, for the servant does not know what his master is doing. But I have called you friends. For all that I have heard from my Father, I have made known to you. Sounds awesome, right? I want to be his friend. He called me friend, right? We all sing the song. But why does he call you friend? In the microphone.
If I do what he commands.
Go ahead, Namana.
Ken, absolutely, because this is his commandment.
Right. You only get the benefits of the relationship if you're doing your part. The relationship is 1,000% conditional. All right, I'll read this one, I guess. All right, 2 Chronicles. For now I have chosen and consecrated this house, that my name may be there forever. My eyes and my heart will be there for all time. And as for you, if you will walk before me as Yahuah your father walked, doing according to all that I have commanded you, and keeping my statutes and my rules, then I will establish your royal throne, as covenanted with Yahuah your father, saying, you shall not lack a man to rule Israel. But if you turn aside and forsake my statutes and my commandments that I've set before you, and go serve other mighty ones and worship them, then I will pluck you up from my land that I've given you. In this house that I've consecrated for my name, I will cast out of my sight, and I will make it a proverb and a byword among all peoples. And at this house, which was exalted, everyone passing by will be astonished and say, what has Yahuah done to this land and to this house? Then they will say, because they abandoned Yahuah, the Elohim of their fathers, who brought them out of the land of Mizraim, and laid hold on other mighty ones and worshiped them and served them. Therefore, he has brought all this disaster on them. What stands out in this one? Namana, what you got?
Ken, well, the answer is in the text. You know, if you will follow my law, statutes, and commandments as your father David would, then you're going to be blessed. But if you forsake them, then guess what? He's going to cast out of you. You're going to be cast out of his sight. And you're going to be a byword and you're going to be a proverb and a byword among peoples. You know, so he's going to cast you out. So you have a choice. Either you're going to do the commandments that your forefather did, or you're going to have to pay the consequences and be cast out of the Father's sight.
Good. Anybody else want to add anything to that? All right, let's just stay right in this little section right here. Is there any ambiguity about the expectations? That would have been so beautiful in the microphone.
No, it's pretty straightforward.
Pretty straightforward, right? So it's safe to say that expectations are clear. We know what will happen if you do good and what will happen if you don't do good, right? Is that an expectation that we often make in our relationships? Is that something we often do? Or do we just react based on how the person treats us without ever telling them what we expected from them in the first place? I've been there before. Every adult in this room has been there before. Either because you were the one who didn't get told, or you were the one that should have told but didn't. You've been on one side of those equations. But you can't do people like that. You can't hold them to a standard that you've never told them what the standard is. Because guess what? Then they get to make a choice. Sometimes we leave that stuff out on purpose because we're afraid of the choice they might make. And there's nothing fair about that. And do those relationships tend to last? Usually not. Usually not. You wasted everybody's time and energy, right? All right. But again, it's clear. If you do this is what I expect from you. If you do that, good things will happen. If you don't, then you can't be surprised when things don't go the way you want it to. All right. So we talked about them, right? So now we're gonna talk about us, right? Question on YouTube, what you got?
Question went up a little bit. But basically it is, why do I need a master if I'm loved unconditionally?
Why you need a master? Because you want relationship. You don't want just love. You don't want just love. I don't want the Most High to love me from afar. I want him to wrap me in his arms and hold me as tight as possible. I want to pass away, be judged, and see his face. That's why I need the master. Nice? Okay. All right. How often do we take the blessings of a loved one for granted? Expecting things from them that we feel they owe us just because they love us. That's my wife. She's supposed to do X, Y, Z. She say she love me. That's my husband. He's supposed to do such and such. He say he love me. But love is the guarantee. The benefits of that love are earned. We can't be fussing and complaining at our spouse all morning, send them off to work. And then when they come home, we want a foot rub. They're gonna have that bowl bath running for us. Based on what? Because he loves me. But you treated him like dirt in the morning, or you treated her like dirt in the morning. You can't treat people any old way and then expect that they owe you something. That's not how this works. Especially when you know that that person is about to leave your house, go deal with a boss they can't stand, coworkers getting on their nerves. You're supposed to make sure they leave on a good note. Make sure they come home to a good note, right? But you can't expect one if you haven't done your part. Too many times we expect the benefit without doing our part. And we expect it that they're going to do it just because they love us. But love is not enough anymore. You got to nurture the relationship. Nobody owes you anything just because they love you. They absolutely do not. They don't even owe you their presence, to be honest with you. All right, what's one thing that ruins most romantic relationships? And it's not another person. Yolanda, what you got?
Communication.
Communication, okay. Namana, what you got?
The one thing that ruins most romantic relationships is unexpected expectations.
Meaning?
Meaning like the person might be expecting too much from the other person. It's just too much expectation. Let me restate, too much expectation from the other person.
So they're expecting something more than that person is capable of giving?
Yes.
Okay. If y'all have those discussions, y'all can figure that part out. If you communicate, like the sister said before you can figure that out. And that's fair. You can say what you got.
Lies.
You said lies?
Straight lies. Lies, yeah, straight lies, lying to each other.
I don't think most relationships are full with lies. Jeez, I said most. Grief. But yes, that will definitely ruin the relationship. Yeah, I can't deal with liars. I agree with you 100%. Yeah, we got one in the room.
I'm thinking ego. It's all about me. It's not about you.
That can be the root, absolutely. But it will definitely manifest itself in a bunch of different ways. Go ahead. Eliah, what you got?
I will say appreciation.
Appreciation, okay. So Eliah?
I was gonna say something along with what Nadamaya said about unknown and sometimes unmet expectations. So sometimes expectations can be discussed and it's 5-10 years later and those expectations aren't being met without follow-up.
5-10 years. I ain't giving nobody 5 years. You can forget that.
I wouldn't either, but that's happening in a lot of relationships.
Who's next? Benedito's, go ahead.
Well, Someone already said mine, so I put my hand down.
Okay, no problem. Xavier, go ahead.
Shalom, I would say circumstances, conditions not being met, you don't do what you used to do.
You don't do what you used to do. Got it. Now, Mana, what you got?
Shalom, Key. I just thought of this one.
You and
That the spiritually unyoked. Like one person could believe in the Father, and another person could be an atheist.
Oh man, that's a terrible choice in a partner.
But hey, I mean, you never know that until you get into a real romantic relationship, and then you find out that they are that has
How are you
happened.
gonna jump in these relationships? Y'all don't have dinner first? What?
Well, speak hello. No, you can, but I'm just saying you in a relationship, but you know, some people don't bring that stuff up at first. They don't. And next thing you know, you're in a situation, and it does happen.
Go ahead, Aki. Shemai, it's on you. He skipped. He changed his mind. Go ahead.
Just looking at the word romantic relationship and thinking about the definition is conducive to the characteristics by the expression of love. So it's an expression of love. So
Expression of love. Okay. What you got?
I believe that they stopped doing things that they enjoyed to do together. So they stopped having fun.
Things we used to do, we don't do no more. All right, Yolanda, you're gonna be last. I gotta move on. Yolanda, what you got?
I'll pass.
All right. All right. I summed it up this way. You take your partner for granted. And so many examples y'all gave are exactly that. We don't do what we used to do. 5 years, you ain't holding up your end of the deal. You're not communicating, right? Assuming they always gonna be there no matter what. No matter how you treat them, they're gonna be there. Assuming why? That love is all we need. That's not gonna work. That is not going to work. You have to build, nourish, and work at the relationship. If you're not putting that work in, the relationship is not gonna last. It's just not. The love is gonna last without the work. I'll still love you, but the relationship is gonna be terrible. The relationship has to be nurtured. They're organic entities. They must be fed in order to thrive, right? Think about something that's living. The relationship is a living organism. If you're not feeding it, it ain't gonna lie. It ain't gonna last. It's gonna get stagnant. If you don't feed it, it's eventually gonna die. Relationships cannot live on love alone. You will be loved from afar. Relationships take the work on the parts of two people, not just one. Everybody has a breaking point if you aren't treating them well, if you're not matching their effort. Now, mind you, some people are a lot more high maintenance than others. There's nothing wrong with that, as long as we clearly communicate that going in. I got a list of 10 things that I got to have in a relationship. My partner has a list of 4. But if I'm only meeting 1 out of her list, she's still empty. If she's only meeting 7 out of my 10, I'm still empty. We both, I got to get to 4, she got to get to 10, or it's not going to work, right? Eventually, you'll find yourselves loving you from afar, even if you're in the same house. Loving from afar does not have to always do with distance. You could be, like the song says, a stranger in my house. I don't even know you anymore. We don't have that intimacy. We don't have that connection anymore because we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing. We simply got satisfied that this person loves me, and that's enough. Elia, what you got?
I was going to ask with what you just mentioned about one party having 4 things that they need versus 10. With being mature and honest in the beginning, whether or not a person will be able to fulfill those things can ruin a relationship, like if they overlook it.
It can be. It's multifaceted. I meif you tell somebody your list, right? This is what I desire, and they think that they can do that, they're going to give you an honest answer. I can handle that. But then you go to walk it out, you realize you fall short in that area, right? But they didn't mislead you necessarily. They honestly thought they could do that. Now, because they made that promise to you and they want to maintain the relationship, they're going to do the work to strengthen themselves in that area. Or they're going to say, she loves me, I'm good. It's been working this long. And they're not going to do that work in that area. And you are not going to be fulfilled. I told you, it takes work. Good.
A part of that love I'm ascertaining here is favor. So within there, you get some favor. If you don't make it meeting the expectations, you get that favor so you can get yourself together. But if you continue to not work at the relationship, then eventually you'll get cut off.
Right. But I owe it to you to tell me that I'm not getting what you need. Because sometimes you think you're doing it. Why? Because the love's still there. They still love me. I must be doing a good job. Don't get stuck on just the love. And have those conversations. Be honest with each other. We had a question. We had a hand in the room first. Go ahead, Aki.
That reminds me. Sometimes for me, especially if I really care about the person, just seeing that effort would like extend my tolerance, if that makes sense. You know, just to see the effort, even if they still kind of falling short on certain things, just to see that they're at least putting they best foot forward and they trying, that's a help.
Absolutely. Now, Mana, what you got?
This reminds me of the relationship with the Father. You know, we must have those communication lines open. We must read and study the Word that is nourishing us and be on the same frequency so we can hear what He's saying and be willing to do what He says to keep the relationship strong and healthy.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Aki.
So when you think about it, expressing that your dissatisfaction in a relationship if something's not going good is also a form of love. Because what you're showing is something is not working for me and it's making me want to end this relationship. But because I want to keep the relationship going with you, I'm telling you this so that way you can get it straight. So that way we can continue the relationship.
However, we got to be able to receive it. Been in a relationship or two, and you tell somebody that you're not satisfied in this area, you're not meeting this need, but they're not willing to receive that. Why would you say that to me? You must not love me. I'm saying it because I do love you enough to work on this thing, but you got to do some work too. Too many times we hear the person's not satisfied. Oh, they don't love me. I give up. Don't give up. That's when you got to pedal a little bit harder. You got to try a little bit harder. But again, they have the responsibility to let you know, right? Yes.
So as I'm listening to this, I'm also just thinking that both people have to be mentally and emotionally healthy. That means they're not coming in with trauma and they're not coming in with, this is my trigger and I'm letting you know right now without recovering from it, because then you're holding someone accountable for your trigger. Okay, here's my landfill and you better, skip over this landmine in order for us to have a relationship. Right. So you're song and dancing.
Right. Ain't nobody trying to jump around all day trying not to stay on mine. Now, many of us have triggers, right? In a relationship. But just because it was a trigger doesn't mean you have to stay a trigger? No, which means you got to do what? You got to nourish your relationship. Do the work so that is no longer a trigger to you. But again, they love me. They'll deal with my triggers. No, they won't. No, they won't. Not only for so long, right? Yes.
So this is actually the whole point of a covenant. So what a covenant, I've been doing research on this for some people that don't know. So what a covenant is designed for is not a contract. It's literally establishing a relationship. And what happens is the first person says, this is what you must do or not do. And then the other person says, this is what I will give to you. And in particularly certain types of covenants, it's understood that the person who has the power, they're not necessarily doing it as a trade. Like, hey, I'm giving you this as a trade for your loyalty. It's I'm doing this for you. And what I expect in a relationship is your loyalty. So everything you're saying is like the whole purpose of a covenant.
Right. But you're establishing what? You're not establishing love. You're establishing the relationship. They are different. All right. He said to him a second time. Remember, you got to feed the relationship. Shimon, do you love me? Yes, Adon. You know that I love you. Love's not being questioned here, right? You know I love you. Tend to my sheep. He said to him a third time, do you love me? Now, Peter was getting grieved because he asked him a third time, you know I love you. How many people been there before? I love you. What else I got to do to tell you that I love you, right? However, you ain't got to say that in the microphone. You good. All right. You know everything. You know that I love you. But loving is not enough. You got to do something. You got to feed my sheep. Love is not enough, right? If we love Yahuah and Yahushua, we ought to feed the sheep, our spouses, our children, our fellow believers. The sheep that he gives us, we got to feed them. We can't just love them. It's not enough. We got to nurture relationships. So consider this. So like, why am I spending all this time talking about romance and what's this got to do with the Father, right? We experience Yahuah through each other. If we take each other's love for granted, we definitely gonna take his for granted. If we're not practicing loving the people that we can see, nourishing those relationships, how are we gonna practice nurturing the relationship with the one we can't see? I guarantee you, within the last 6 months, myself included, somebody done took his love for granted. Oh, he loves me. I can do this. I can do that. He'll provide. He'll do this because he loves me. But what did you do? You got to do your part, right? Don't get complacent in treating one another well. Because no one here loves you, owes you their love. It's not owed to anybody. Just because I loved you when we first said I do, doesn't mean that I'm going to love you forever. I don't have to. I can choose to, but I'm not obligated. I don't owe you anything. And vice versa. Nobody is owed love. The only one who loves us unconditionally is the one that made us. Now, it's ideal. That's the aim. But all of us aim for stuff and fall short. So you got to be asking yourself, in this relationship with this person, am I doing enough to maintain what they feel is love? Because if what I feel is love and what they feel is love ain't the same, it's never going to work. Which means you got to do what? You got to be vulnerable. You got to be vulnerable. You got to be willing to shed those tears, have those tough conversations, yell, be yelled at, get it all out, stop holding stuff back. Oh, I don't want to say that because it'll hurt their feelings, but it'll save the relationship. Their hurt feelings, they will mend. They will get over it. But if you don't say what you need to say, the relationship might not. How many times do we go before the Father and we're not truly emptying ourselves to him? We're holding back. We can't hold back. That's the safest place to be. But again, if you put yourself in that situation that you're not willing to be vulnerable and let yourself out to each other, you're never going to fully be vulnerable to him. Something to think about. All right. So something else to remember. Y'all have heard me say this before. The math is not in anybody's favor. There's 1 billion people on this earth. Nobody in this room is irreplaceable. Husbands, wives, we love each other. But that person leaves, guess what's going to happen the next day? Sun going to come up. Sun going to set. That person going to wake up. Person going to go to sleep. Nobody owes you anything. You got to treat them right. Everybody has a breaking point. Everybody does. You don't want to push them to the breaking point. Even the Father has a breaking point. He will love you, but he'd be like, this relationship can't be saved. Enjoy the outer darkness. Have fun. I tried all I could. I love you, but you ain't going to get right. Everything has a breaking point. Don't ever get complacent and think that simply love is enough. It's not. It's not. Any questions? All right, no questions?
I don't have a question, but I do got a comment.
Go ahead.
One thing when you was talking kind of came to mind, in terms of both aspects, like concerning what Yahuah did for Yashua, bringing them out of Egypt, that was a gift. That was a free gift that they got. Now, after he took them out and washed them up and says, all right, now it's time for us to go into this relationship. All right. So I've given you this free gift, but I desire a relationship with you. So these are the conditions of relationship. And even going into Mashiach was that free gift that was given. And it's the same thing. So now this new covenant is, or excuse me, this renewed covenant that the Father is offering to us is like, hey, I've given you another free gift. Now, what I need you to do is to follow in my ways so that you can be rewarded and do the things and have this relationship with me that I desire to have with you. So yeah, it's both aspects.
Go ahead, okay.
Because we all know that Yahuwah is love and Elohim is love. You can't do nothing but, so, but how do we maintain that relationship with him? And he tells us, if you keep my commandments, we can maintain this relationship if you follow my instructions. That's how he's given us our conditions.
I didn't put it on the slide. I wasn't sure if it was going to make it into the lesson or not. But we talked about taking for granted, right? And I want you to consider how often you take Yahuah for granted. I talked about being open and willing to get down to the core, right? You're not withholding anything from him. But how often have you withheld your praise from him? How often have you withheld your thanks from him? Anybody familiar with the term spiritual prostitution? Put a twist on it. I'll praise Yahuah if he does this for me. This ain't no tit for tat. If you do this for me, then I will pay you. You give me a service, that blessing I wanted, and I will pay you for that with my praise. Spiritual prostitution. You can't do that. How many people doing that with somebody in their life? Oh, he bought me a purse, so I'll give him a hug today. She made my lunch today, so I'll show some affection. I ain't saying everybody in this room, right? Just saying. Don't make your partner have to earn your affection. It's not a tit for tat. You do this for me, then I'll be nice to you. Because eventually, it's going to go and seep into your relationship with Yahuah, and you'll be finding yourself in spiritual prostitution before you realize it. You will only give him what he desires when he does something for you. Testifying, you got a question?
Today, before coming, before actually getting dressed, I was praying, and I was, after I prayed, I thanked the Father and just, thanking him for just, waking me up to this truth, just all that. And I was finished praying, and I felt almost like, not an anger, but I felt a strong sense that your prayer is not over. And I knew then that I needed to worship. And I stopped and I started worshiping the Father because I had done everything, but I didn't worship him. And I had to stop and do that because it was like, I felt that need to have that relationship, like you just said. And when you just said that, I was like, that happened to me just maybe a few hours before coming here today.
Now, when I say these things and they sound a little harsh, they sound like terrible things that we never want to do. I also want us to be mindful that there's not always an evil intent behind when we do it. We're just not conscious of it. And then we find ourselves going in these bad habits, developing these certain habits, which is why he keeps having me bring this kind of stuff up here. And like, you know, they got the definitions, they got the wonderful Hebrew vocabulary. I'm trying to change behaviors. So, what? He did let me steal his slide with the fancy warning symbol. So, all right. But again, just be mindful how we treat each other, and be mindful that relationship and love are not the same thing, and nobody owes you either one, and they got to be nurtured and maintained. That's all I have. I yield.
Hallelujah. All right, let us stand. Vic.
And I think my daughter loves me.
Baruch Hashem Yahuah Eloheinu Melech Olam. Todah Rabah Most High. We thank you yet again for this assembly of your people. We are grateful for the word that has been brought forth and the understanding that comes with it. We are thankful that you are communicating through your servants to continue on this journey of reflection. First, we were to look in our closets and begin to parse out the matters not of you and the things that we were holding on to. And now we are looking externally at the context and fulfillment of our relationships with one another, and most importantly with you. And so, Abba, in this journey, we ask forgiveness for our sin, transgression, and iniquity. Please forgive us for the things we may have done and charge it to our mind and not our hearts. But Abba, you know us. We are laid bare before you. And so we are striving to get it right. And so we thank you for this first reminder today. And as we depart, that we continue to do so during the week of reflection, and to remember that we have an opportunity to be a light to others, guarding your commands, to be an example. And so Abba, we humbly ask, please watch over and guard us and keep us from the error by day and the terror by night. We continually are in prayer for those who are in mourning. May this be an opportunity to reach out, to just offer a word of encouragement, and that to know that Mishpachah are there. And so, Abba, we also ask, please cover this meal that is about to be received. We are thankful for this fellowship to be had. We continue to be in prayer for those who are near and scattered. And until we meet again, we continue to give you praise through Hamashiach Yahusha, the Yahuah, Selah, Amen.